Okay, what we're going to do today is take a Photoshop file. We're going to create a Photoshop file and give a kind of graphical look to our website. We're going to do this by creating some glowing orbs. So we'll be using the paintbrush tool to do this. So let's start off by creating our canvas. So this is something we would do for any website that we created. So I'm going to go to the File menu, choose New, and I'm going to choose a dimensional size dimensions for the website that I'm going to use. Now, most websites are usually based on the 960 grid. So I'm going to make this website 960, but I also want to save a little, or I want to create a little extra room for the outsides of the design. So I'm going to add 200 extra pixels on each side. So I'm going to choose a width of 1360. Right? Now height doesn't really matter too much, as long as I have substantial, well, not substantial, but enough room there to create my design. So I'm going to go with 1000. I can always change these down the line. Alright, so I'm going to click OK. Now with this 1360 by 1000, I'm going to start to create my guides. My guides are going to be where I'm lining things up inside Photoshop when I create my design. So let's bring up the rulers, Control R, let's right click in the ruler bar and change it to pixels, because we're working in pixels now. And I want to put my guides exactly at 200 pixels and exactly at 1160. That would be 200 pixels in from each side, correct? And I could click and drag the guides, but sometimes it's hard to drop it right exactly on the 200 pixel mark. So I'm going to go to the View menu and choose New Guide, and I'm going to specify that I want that guide to be vertically at 200 pixels and click OK. Now I'm going to do View again and do New Guide and set that one at 1160, which is 200 pixels in from the right side. Now that's leaving me 960 pixels right in the middle. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to create another guide for the header area. What's going to be the header of this? Now that one's not going to be too important as far as, oh, I want it to be a certain height, or it's all going to depend on your graphics. So whatever banner I put up there, before I'm done with my Photoshop file, I can readjust that top guide. That's not as important as the side guides that I just created. These two side guides are very important when it comes to lining up everything. Okay, so let's see. I always like to unlock my layer here, my background layer. And for now, I'm just going to drag a guide down into about this area, right? And I can do the same thing for my footer guide as well. I can drag something in there. All right? So let's go ahead and start creating some orbs. Yeah? Now, let's say I want my site to be black background, because I think my glowing orbs are going to look better on a black site. So I'm actually going to fill this background color, which is layer 0. Go to my paint bucket tool, hit X on my keyboard to switch, make sure I have black as my foreground color, and just paint bucket fill that layer right there. Alright, zoom in a little bit and hit H on my keyboard for my hand tool so I can move this canvas around. I'm going to place an orb right here in this corner. This is kind of a pivotal point for my website. So if at any time I decide I want to move remove my guides for now, I can just hit Control H and they're gone. Okay, Control H would bring them back. H for hide. So right now I'm going to work in the middle of the screen and just draw an orb, and then I'm going to move it into the right spot. So let's create a new layer that's going to be the layer for our orb. Click New Layer, and I'm going to name this, maybe I'll call this a blue orb. Alright. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the brush tool. I'm going to click the brush tool And I'm going to make sure that I have a soft brush listed up here. But now I got to go pick a color. So I have a soft brush here, right there. And it's about at 125 size. That's good. Let me change my foreground color. And let me pick a really dark blue to start with. Okay? So I'm going to pick this right in here, this dark blue. Alright? And click OK, and let's go ahead and place that somewhere on the screen. Now, in fact, I'm going to go a little bit bigger. Okay, there. So now I've got one start of my orb. Paintbrush, soft blue, it's on there, right? Now, go and change the color a little bit lighter. So click on your foreground color and choose a color that's a little bit lighter, right? Click OK. Decrease the brush size by using your brackets, and I'm going to decrease it about 3 hits on the keyboard, and I'm going to click inside that orb again. So now you can see I'm starting to get a multicolor piece here. Now I'm going to zoom into this piece, you guys see it. I like to use the combination of hand tool, zoom tool. So I hit H on my keyboard. I hold down the control key, it turns into the zoom, and I can zoom into this a little bit more. And then when I let go, it's the hand key. Alright? Go back to the brush key by hitting B on your keyboard. And now choose the next lighter color. So I can move right on into here. Okay. And let's choose that one right there. Go down in brush size, about 3 more. Click in here again. Alright. And go and choose one more blue. I'm going to drag it down here to a lighter set of blue. And almost toward the white here. Click OK. Bring the brush size down. Click inside here. And now I can see this orb starting to form itself. Yeah? And I can go all the way down to a really small size of white if I like. But I kind of like that. Right? So now, this is all of those. You can't change it. If you messed up, you got to start all over again because they're all on one layer. Right? So I can choose my move tool and I can move this piece around anywhere I want. Right? But now what I want to do is I'm going to use the smudge tool, which is right over here somewhere. I always forget where things are. Let's see. Where's my smudge tool? Let's see. Where's my smudge tool? Oh, well, I know it's S on the keyboard. All right, there. Oh, it's under the clone stamp. No, that's not. It's not S for smudge. Clone stamp. I was just using this thing. Oh, that's why.
There it is.
Because I was using the sharpen tool. Yeah, thanks. All right, so smudge tool. Sorry about that. And now we're going to smudge some lines in there. All right, so I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to zoom in some more so that I can get even closer to. Well, no, that's a little too much. All right. So grab your smudge tool, and what we're going to do is use check the strength on the smudge tool and the size. You can see what kind of the size is. Maybe I want to bring the size up a little bit more. That's about right. And the strength would be how much it actually smudges. So I can grab this piece right here and click and drag, and it will actually smudge that piece. Hit Control Z. You may want to use your history panel to go back in time each for some of these. So as you start to move more and more smudges, you might want to take some of them away. Alright, so maybe I want a little more strength on the first one. So let me try it at 100 and see what happens. Nah, not going to work, yeah? So let me go back down to about 70. Alright, and that one looks alright. And let's grab some more of these and start smudging away. Alright? So you got to, and this is just kind of, this is, you know, it's kind of a play around with it. Keep trying to find out where that happy medium is. I didn't like that one. Because there's no wrong or right way to do it. It's just, oh, okay. All right. All right. So that's close to what I want. That looks all right. Right. So now I have one smudge, and I can go and create another color orb if I like. But let's finish this one first. I'm going to add one more thing to it, and we're going to go back to the brush panel. I'll go click the brush tool, and excuse me. Let's go to right here where you have the brush panel. You can click on there, right? And let's change some of the dimensions of the brush that we're going to use. All right. So if you look at the brush presets, obviously just choose a soft brush, and in the brush area, choose shape dynamics. Okay, right here, and start change the size jitter so you can actually stretch some of these things out. So maybe I'll make that 70%. Make the minimum diameter. Move that up. And in the scattering, maybe if I want to use scattering, I can scatter these out like this, right? And control, I'm going to do a fade. So you can start playing with these things. So in scattering, I got the first couple there. And shape dynamics, let me go play with that some more here. Let's see. Actually, that's fine. I always like to just go in there and play with a lot of the controls to see what which ones are going to give me the stuff that and the way that I want. And then maybe I need them spaced out a little bit. So in the brush tip shape area, go ahead and, you know, I can modify the spacing a little bit. So maybe it comes to a tail like that, and maybe this. Okay, make about 80 and about 30, somewhere around there. That looks about right. So that's going to give me a, well, let's see what it does, right? So now if I go into here and I choose this brush, oh, by the way, if I want, I can save this as a brush, right? So down here in the brush panel, you can click create new brush, and I can call this bubbles, right? So, and then click OK, and the brush is already set there. But now, if I ever wanted to go choose that, I could go to Brush Presets, and there it is at the bottom. There's my new brush that I just created. All right. So I can come into here, and now I'm going to create another layer for my bubbles. I don't want to mess up my orb the way it is, because I may want to stretch some of that glowing thing out some more. So let me create a new layer, call it bubbles, and then go in there and with the paintbrush tool, right, go in there and start creating. So maybe that one, and what you're going to want to try is try click and drag slow, right, and you'll see what happens, and maybe try click and drag fast. So maybe I want a little less intensity on the bubbles. So I'm going to bring the opacity down to like 50%. And then I don't like what happens at the end. So when I just go like that, kind of. Let me try one without the flow. All right. Yeah, I like the flow a little more. A little more strength. Don't like that one. Oh. Okay. And one thing I want to do, I want to change something on here on the brush preset. So I'm going to go back to here and I'm going to bring this minimum roundness down and the roundness jitter down and angle jitter down. And try that. Let's see. Scattering. So what happens if I use a hard brush? No. Whoops. Oh, wrong one. Oh. Okay. Alright. I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to smudge up. Actually, I'm going to make a few extra smudge pieces. And what you can do is, if you want, you can erase certain areas too. So if you use your erase tool and then you come down here and drop the opacity of the brush on the erase tool, it won't erase a lot. It'll just drop down, like if some of it is just a little, whoops, and that's going to leave circular motion. So I want to erase it in a stroke. So maybe what I want to do is smudge instead. Okay. That's not too bad. Okay, so something like that. I mean, every one that you create is going to look so different than each of the other ones. So it's just a matter of what you feel like doing. I could probably spend all day playing with this, so I'm going to just stop right here. Okay, so now we have an orb that, if we go back and look at the full dimensions of our website here, and we do Control H to bring our guides back, click your move tool and decide where this piece is going to be. Whoop. And let me take these two layers and lock them together. So select both of those and choose your chain link in your layers panel. And so now when I move them, they'll be moved as one. So now what I'm going to do is I can move that whole piece, the bubbles and the strokes like that, wherever I want. I can also hit Control T to go into free transform and just kind of rotate that where I might want it. So let's say I want it to be right in here as far as my website is concerned. And now my logo will be across the top. So here's the orb for the website. And of course I can duplicate that orb as well if I want two orbs to be on my website. So if you do a Control J with those two layers selected, it will create a duplicate of those two layers. And now I can take and move that orb over here. And now maybe I say, okay, let me do a Control T, and that goes in the free transform. But I'm going to right click inside that edited area and I'm going to flip it horizontally so it's facing the other way. And then I'm going to rotate it a little more here like this, and have this kind of off the site in a sense. give it a little balance. Okay, and I'm going to choose that. I'm going to alter this one just a little bit. So let me zoom into it so it looks a little different than the other ones. So I'm going to go into the orb part, choose my smudge tool, and come bring the down a little bit. It's alright. No, it's working. I just want to create a little bit of difference in the way it looks compared to the other one. Oh, that's the bubble part, so I go down here. Alright, and let's go back to that other orb. Maybe there's a couple things I want to add on there in the smudge piece. I'm going to go way down in size, get rid of the guides for a second, and maybe I want to create some, whoops, little, I'm too picky about what I want to see. So I'm just going to draw these in there. Okay, so you get kind of a there we go. All right, so now it looks a little different than the first one. Maybe the first one I could do the same thing if I want. Use my hand tool and zoom tool and zoom into that. Alright. Back in here, smudge some of this out. And if, this is definitely not going to look like the other one because I did them both from the start. Okay. So now, now we have our orbs, and the last thing I want to add to this is just some type of word that's going to be the essence of the website, the title of the website. So I'm going to add a text layer and go to the top of the layer panel, and when I click on T, it should add a text layer for me, and you know, I can call this flying orbs or whatever you want to call your website for now. Of course, I am in really small font, so I'm going to create this to be about 72. Right? Whoops, I'm in black text as well. So I want to create a lighter color for the font so I can see there. And of course I'm not going to have just regular text here, but let's make something that's going to be a decent size, and then I'll add some styling to it. So maybe I don't want that font right there. There's a lot of things you can do getting into the text tool with you know, creating warp text and all that kind of good stuff. Let me just create a different font, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer style to that font. So double click your text layer, and then you can start playing with all the different, you know, layer styles. Maybe you've got some glows going on, outer glow. Let's see if we create the size of that outer glow and give it a lighter blue color. Spread it out. Alright, so something along those lines. Not the best looking, but just for the sake of demonstration. And I don't like the intensity of that layer, so maybe I'm going to fade it out a little bit. Just drop the opacity some on it. There's other things I can do, but for sake of time, let's just say, okay, we got a decent header in there. We'll just kind of create it from there. Put a black stroke around it. You know, that black stroke probably is a little too much, so maybe I'll drop the opacity. Well, and you'll see some of that glow in there. You know, I don't even know if I like the black stroke. Yeah. Maybe it doesn't need to be black, it needs to be darker blue. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay. I think what would work better is if we change the color to a little darker blue. Okay, close enough. So now what we're going to do in part 2 of this is we're going to take these pieces and chop them up and put them into a Dreamweaver layout, an Adobe Dreamweaver layout. So that will be in part 2 of the video, so look for that on the same site, youtube.com/OCDigitalArts. Thanks.